Billionaire's shocking discovery. Fiancée's hidden act against his mother and daughter exposed. Jack Thompson stared at the legal documents, the letters and words swirling into a tempest of disbelief. He had built an empire from scratch, and now, standing in his sleek Dallas office adorned with trophies of his success, he felt the sharp sting of betrayal cut through the veins of the love he thought he shared with Laura. Contesting the ranch's mother's legacy wasn't just a legal matter. It was a blow to the very essence of who he was. His heart raced as the chill of realization settled in. How could she? In a whirlwind of ambition, Jack had fallen for Laura, his captivating fiancée, whose fierce drive mirrored his own. He envisioned a future where they'd forge a family embodying both their dreams and their late mother's values. But now, that future hung precariously by a thread, as the notion of familial loyalty shredded under the weight of competing desires. He should have been celebrating their love, yet the world felt dark and uncertain. Jack's breath hitched as he imagined his mother, Miriam, a woman who sacrificed everything for their sprawling ranch, pouring her heart into the land and its roots. The ranch wasn't just soil and structures. It was a covenant of their family values. Now, the realization that Laura was questioning that inheritance transformed the very ground of his convictions. Where does loyalty lie when love turns into a betrayal? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Confronting Laura felt like a duel, each word sharp and tested by the weight of betrayal. He wrestled with his thoughts, questioning everything he believed about women's rights and familial duty. Had he been blind to her motives? Or was this stance about equality merely masking her ambition? The emotional turmoil clouded his mind, igniting doubts he had buried under layers of trust. Was he fighting against a woman he loved, or against the changing tides of societal norms? Tension gripped his stomach as he imagined Emma, his young daughter, navigating the murky waters of loyalty amid confusion and anger. Jack strained against the knot twisting in his chest as he sought wisdom from an old mentor. The wise man had guided him through the complexities of life and business, reminding him of perseverance and love for family. Yet, now, straddling a line between familial loyalty and the fight for justice, he was engulfed by uncertainty. Each heartbeat resonated with pressure. How was he to choose? Standing on the precipice of this decision, Jack felt the familiar comfort of promises and legacy unraveling before him. The shattering secret of Laura's intentions twisted a dagger into his gut. His mind raced with questions, visions of a fractured future clouding his vision. Would combating Laura drive them apart, or weave their paths into a unity far more complex? The burgeoning silence following their confrontation hung heavily, amplifying the unanswered questions echoing in his mind. Just as he gathered the courage to shape an answer, his phone buzzed violently against the polished desk. The voice on the other end sliced through his spiraling thoughts, a hidden ally in Laura's quest, a whisper from his past that sent waves of anxiety crashing around him. With the foundation of everything Jack held dear hanging by a thread, he braced himself for the storm to follow, knowing that the revelation would force him deeper into the heart of his dilemma, one that threatened to reshape his entire life. The moment Jack hung up the phone, a rush of adrenaline coursed through him. The words from the voice on the other end lingered like a shadow, filling the air with a palpable tension. He leaned back in his chair, staring blankly at the documents still strewn across his desk, as if the answer to his turmoil could be found among the ink and paper. Instead, the pieces of his life felt more fragmented than ever. He could no longer ignore the urgent gnawing impulse to take charge of the chaos enveloping him. Rising from his seat, Jack paced the lengths of his office. The walls, lined with accolades of past triumphs, now felt suffocating. Each trophy spoke to a part of him that yearned for victory. Yet here he was bordering on a downfall. He raked a hand through his hair, willing himself to dissect his situation with the analytical precision that had brought him success in business. A harsh light shot through the window as the setting sun bathed the room in gold, contrasting with the dark cloud gathering in his heart. Burdened with questions, he needed clarity. Was this a point of no return for his relationship with Laura? The idea of severing ties with a woman he envisioned growing old with was repugnant. Yet, the bitter reality remained. Could he accept partnership with someone whose ambitions thrived on dismantling his heritage? Jack sank into the plush leather of his chair, allowing silence to drown out the world around him. When had it all become so tangled? The betrayal cut deeper than mere professional conflict. It was wrapped tightly around his identity as a father, a son, and a businessman. The clash of personal and professional loyalty echoed loudly in his mind, contorting the clarity of his once steadfast principles that it was time to confront Laura. Yet, as he considered their next meeting, the stakes morphed into something unfathomably high. He would not just defend a legacy. He would defend who he was, the values instilled in him by his mother, which had constructed the very framework of his existence. The challenge now lay not in merely saving the ranch, but in understanding what sort of man he wanted to be, not just as a benefactor of a family legacy, but as a figure of respect. Finalizing his thoughts, Jack directed his attention toward formulating a strategy. The need for growth and resolution became paramount. Perhaps there were aspects of his own ambition he had previously overlooked, paths he could forge that didn't necessitate dismantling the relationship he so desperately wanted to preserve. As he drafted a list of key points for their impending discussion, an idea bubbled to the surface, igniting a flicker of hope. There could be a compromise, a way to reconcile not only his family's history, but Laura's professional ambitions too. But as he flipped the page to begin sketching out potential solutions, an encroaching sense of doubt surrounded him. Was he leveraging his power to win a negotiation, or genuinely attempting to understand and blend their aspirations? The line was thin. His phone buzzed again. It was Laura. The moment of truth awaited him. Would he confront her, demanding clarity, or seek to understand her motivations? With one swift motion, he pressed answer. The choice he made now would navigate the course of both their futures, entwining their fates in unforeseen ways. Laura, he began, heart pounding, we need to talk. As the weight of his decision loomed ahead, Jack realized the true battle was not merely about the ranch, but about whether they could build a future together or if their paths would forever diverge. The air crackled with tension as Jack's heart raced in his chest. He focused on Laura's voice, the calm veneer she always projected, and felt the fight-or-flight response surge within him. Her words wrapped around him like a vice, squeezing out the clarity he so desperately sought. Jack, I'm glad you called, she said with an unexpected warmth, unknowing of the storm swirling inside him. I've been thinking about how we can work together. The deal with the land is going to be beneficial for both of us, Laura, he interrupted, each syllable heavy with the weight of unspoken truths. Before we dive into business, we need to address the elephant in the room. The plan you've laid out, it feels like a betrayal of everything my family has built. We need to talk about your intentions and how they align with our future together. He watched her face, seeking signs of defensiveness, wondering if she truly understood the depth of his concerns. Her expression shifted slightly, revealing the cracks in her composed exterior. Jack, I wouldn't betray you. This is about progress, about making a better future. Progress. The word echoed like a haunting admonition, nostalgia clawing at the edges of his heart. What did progress mean when it threatened to dismantle the very foundation of his identity? But at what cost? You want to change everything I hold dear. You're risking our family for your ambitions, and I can't just sit by and allow that. Laura's eyes flashed with frustration. This isn't just about you and your heritage. It's also about my goals, my career. You don't see the whole picture. The world is changing, and if you don't adapt, you'll get left behind. Jack's gut twisted. The arguments they'd exchanged seemed futile now, reduced to harsh fragments echoing through his mind as he weighed the magnitude of her ambitions. He hadn't considered the real significance of her prospective success at any cost. I know that, and I agree change is necessary, but there are ways to adapt without erasing the past. We can honor it while also moving forward. She sighed. visibly torn between impulse and principle. I understand where you're coming from, but I built my career on turning challenges into opportunities. There was a fire in her voice now, defiance that hardened his resolve. Beneath the surface, he discerned the unyielding ambition that once attracted him. But now, that same quality felt like a barrier, obstructing his view of their shared future. Jack leaned forward, his brows knitting together as he sought to connect. Ambition doesn't have to mean destruction, Laura. What if we collaborated more openly? We could combine forces rather than combat one another. Your expertise could enhance what we have. Laura's expression flickered, uncertainty dancing in her eyes. You want to partner with me in this? After everything? It's the only way I can see us progressing together, he replied, open yet cautious. He felt a faint spark of hope, igniting the darkness that cloaked his heart. However, he kept his awareness keen, knowing the potential for compromise was a delicate dance on a tightrope. The silence hung thick, the air charged with unspoken potential. Jack's mind raced with possibilities, new strategies, collaborations, and paths he had yet to explore. Perhaps this moment would mark the beginning of his transformation, not just in business, but as a man willing to redefine what success truly meant. Just as Laura opened her mouth, ready to respond, her phone beeped with a notification, catching her attention. She cast a quick glance, her expression shifting from earnest to alarmed. I need to take this. It's important, she said reluctantly, standing to grab her phone from the desk. Jack watched her retreat, and in that moment, the door to revelation seemed to swing wide open. What did she harbor that could change everything? The sound of the door clicking shut echoed in his mind, a sudden realization crashing over him like a wave. If he wanted to navigate the treacherous waters ahead, he needed to investigate every angle. The truth behind Laura's aspirations could either fortify their bond or shatter it completely, demanding confrontations he wasn't fully prepared for. As the seconds ticked away, he resolved to bolster his understanding of her motivations, for clarity was becoming a critical weapon in this fight. The game had changed, and his next steps could either seal their fate or catalyze another unforeseen divide. Jack's heart pounded as he weighed his options. The time had come to face what was hidden, and he would uncover it. What would he discover if he pried further into Laura's life? Jack stood alone in the dim room, grappling with his thoughts like a boxer in the final round of a match, desperately searching for clarity amid the chaos. The tension in the air was thick, a palpable reminder of the unresolved issues. Laura's departure left him feeling isolated, and the faint echoes of their conversation reverberated in his mind. He was left with a choice: continue blindly trusting her, or take control of the narrative that was life and business. His pulse quickened as the reality of his situation sank in. Increasingly, he felt the pressure to evolve, not just as a participant in this commercial battle, but as a pivotal figure in his family's legacy. Each day of inaction risked more than his professional ambitions. It risked their collective identity. Silently, he cursed himself for letting Laura draft plans that seemed far too ambitious for their comfort. He wanted to protect his family's land, the history attached to it. But was that worth risking everything for? Or was he merely an anchor holding her back in a world she was freaking out of? He took a deep breath, steadied his resolve, and slid his phone from his pocket. He had contacts, allies who could illuminate Laura's intentions, guiding him through the murky waters of corporate ambition. He tapped an acquaintance on the screen, Alex, an old friend with deep ties in the industry and a knack for strategic insights. Jack, it's been too long, Alex answered, his voice crackling with enthusiasm. Yet beneath that surface friendliness, Jack could sense a slight hesitancy. Everything okay? Jack swallowed hard, consumed by the earnestness of his inquiry. Do you know anything about the land deal Laura is pursuing? I need to know what I might be missing. Alex hesitated for a moment, clearly weighing his words. That deal, it's pretty high stakes. There are whispers of other investors circling. You need to be careful, man. Careful. The word hung in the air like a shroud. What did that even mean in a context where ambition masked manipulation? Jack fought against the rising tide of paranoia, but he couldn't ignore the nagging suspicion that Laura might have ulterior motives. Is she aiming for something bigger? Jack pressed, the urgency heightening in his voice. I can't speak for her, Alex replied, cautious yet earnest. But if she's looking at expanding into more lucrative areas, Consider how that impacts your family's operations. It's a delicate balance. Jack felt the weight settle heavier on his shoulders. He had always taken pride in his ability to navigate complex landscapes, but now he wondered if his approach had been far too benign, too naive. The ground beneath him was shifting, and he needed to adapt swiftly or risk losing everything. "Thanks, Alex. I'll keep my eyes open," Jack said, determination rising in him like a phoenix. After the call, he sank into thought for a moment, searching for a strategy. His next move had to be calculated and bold, and for the first time, a realization struck him. Just as Laura was ambitious about her career, he needed to become fierce in defense of his family's future. A collaboration could empower both of them, but transparency was the real foundation for any alliance. With a newfound sense of purpose, he made the decision to gather more information. He would confront Laura when she returned, armed with insights and questions that could lead to meaningful dialogue. Perhaps most importantly, he would reveal to her his own ambitions, a side of him she had yet to see. He set his plan in motion. Jack's heart raced not just with anxiety, but a thrill of anticipation. He understood now that understanding her could lead to breakthroughs in their partnership. He wasn't just fighting for the past. He was fighting for their future together, even if that meant challenging Laura head-on. Before long, the door clicked open, and Laura stepped back into the room, her expression unreadable. Jack could sense the weight of unspoken truths settling heavy between them. With adrenaline coursing through him, Jack prepared to engage her, ready to break down the barriers between them and redefine what their bond meant in light of their intertwined ambitions. What awaited him on the other side of this conversation remained uncertain but necessary. "Laura," he began, his voice steady yet filled with a gravity that hinted at the tension to come, "we need to talk. I've been thinking." Jack paused, the weight of his words hanging heavily in the air. Laura looked at him, her brow furrowed slightly as if she could sense the shift in atmosphere, the fizz of tension that had crackled to life since he had spoken. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. "About the deal," he continued, choice of words deliberate, "I've heard some concerning things. I think we need to reconsider our approach." He watched her features harden ever so slightly, a fortress against his encroaching doubt. "Rethink?" She scoffed lightly, an attempt at dismissiveness that did nothing to mask her underlying defensiveness. "Jack, this is a chance to take significant strides forward. Why would you want to hold us back? But at what cost?" The question slipped out before he could fully assess its implications. "Our family history, the land, it's not just an investment for us. It's everything." Each word felt bold, a defiance against the current that had threatened to drag him under. Laura's eyes narrowed, a mix of disbelief and frustration brewing inside of her. "You're being overly cautious. This is the future, Jack. This isn't just about our relationship with the land anymore. It's about survival in this ruthless industry. Can't you see that?" Jack felt a pang at her words. Survival. What factions of survival were worth sacrificing their heritage? He had always considered growth a double-edged sword, sharp and promising, yet capable of inflicting deep wounds. The more he listened, the more he sensed a divergence in their vision. "Ruthless?" he echoed incredulously. "Is that really the path you want to follow?" He caught her gaze. It was piercing, defiant. He recognized the fire in her and felt the need to confront it, to pierce below the surface and discover what lay unspoken. "You know, I've always believed in this dream we share. But if it means trampling over our history to achieve success, I have to question how much of this is still us. Laura, can you honestly say you're doing this for both of us?" The silence stretched between them, heavy and thick, the air charged with their unvoiced doubts and fears. Jack's heart raced. He could see her mind working behind her stormy exterior, torn between their past and the overwhelming allure of ambition. "Well, maybe that's your problem," she replied finally, a strange calmness settling in her voice. "Always holding on too tightly to the past. What if I want more than just this?" That so casually spoken, this hit Jack like a punch to the gut. He had always prided himself on holding their legacy close, on respecting the land and its heritage. But perhaps, in Laura's eyes, he had become synonymous with stagnation, and the thought of her moving forward without him sent a chill down his spine. "What do you want?" he asked quietly, desperately searching her eyes for answers he feared might reveal a truth he wasn't ready to accept. I want to elevate us, to build something we can be proud of. But we both need to be on the same page for that to happen, she confessed, the fight rolling back just a bit, her voice softening. Jack could feel the crackle of the ground beneath them, the tectonic plates of their partnership shifting. Then let us build together, but we need to communicate, Laura. No more secrets, be transparent in what this ambition entails. Challenge me. Yes, but don't leave me in the dark. Her expression softened minutely, the initial defensiveness giving way to something akin to contemplation. Just as light flickered through the clouds, a new possibility emerged. Jack felt a hope kindling within him. If she could open up, perhaps they could navigate through this storm together. What if I don't have all the answers? She finally asked, the vulnerability in her voice surprising him. Then let us find them together, he proposed, every syllable thick with intent. As partners. But just as hope flickered in the air, the familiar sound of a notification buzzed on Laura's phone, breaking the moment. She glanced down, her expression abruptly shuddering. I have to take this. Jack watched her step away, tension coiling tight within him. Would she return with more walls erected between them, or would she finally tear them down? As he stood there, uncertainty roiled inside him. He would need to steer his ship through those turbulent waters, even if it meant accepting the hidden vulnerabilities in both their ambitions. The real test of their relationship was just beginning. What lay ahead could either forge a stronger union or fracture them irreparably. What would Laura reveal on the other end of that phone call, and how would it shift the course of their conversation? Jack felt the weight of the silence loom large as he waited for Laura to finish her call. He could feel his breath tighten, each tick of the clock teasing his anxiety, reminding him that there was yet another layer to unpack. He moved a few steps away, instinctively seeking the sunlight filtering through the trees, its warmth contrasting sharply with the chill of their conversation. As he stood there, Jack's mind whirled with possibilities. What revelation could have been so urgent? The last remnants of hope began to dither, the edges tinged with uncertainty. He couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was at play, a hidden agenda he anticipated. His instinct urged him to question everything, to probe past the facade of their relationship. He turned from the window used as a fleeting refuge and headed toward the large office desk covered in plans and blueprints, symbols of their dreams. He picked up one of the folders, tracing the embossed logo with his thumb. This represented everything he had believed in: collaborative effort, mutual respect. But then again, was it truly collaborative? Had he been too focused on the past, too unwilling to adapt to the precarious present? With a sigh, he set the folder back down. He needed clarity, not just about the business, but about himself. What did he truly want? Was he simply trying to preserve what was, or could he embrace what could be? He locked eyes with their family portrait framed on the wall, an image of smiles that felt distant, almost like a stranger. Laura's footsteps cut through the haze of his thoughts, and he turned to face her. She looked more composed now, but the lines around her eyes suggested a weight he wanted to alleviate. What was that about? He pressed, not allowing the small, hopeful voice inside him to take hold. She hesitated, her gaze dropping briefly. It was about the partnership, she said carefully. Some developments that need addressing. Jack braced himself, the air thickening with unspoken truths. Are we in trouble? His voice lacked the strength he'd hoped for, edging toward desperation. No, it's not that. It's just details that could change the landscape. I need you to trust me, Jack. Her tone was measured, but he could hear the trepidation lacing her words. Trust is earned, Laura. I feel like there are things you're not telling me, and that worries me. He stepped closer and held her gaze, demanding honesty, but feeling the boundaries of their discourse shift again. I'm trying to protect us. She shot back, defensiveness creeping in again. Protect us how? The words spilled out, sharper than intended. Jack knew he was confronting a wall instead of entering dialogue, but he couldn't throttle down the urgency. By hiding things? By not involving me? That's not collaboration. Her eyes flashed with something frustration, sure, but deeper than that. Jack saw a hint of fear reflected back, a fear of losing everything they had built, and of losing him in the process. Every choice I make, I try to consider you. She finally burst out. But I also know we can't keep clinging to traditions that might not serve us. I'm trying to think strategically. Jack's mind began to whirl as he processed her words. Strategic thinking, that was the gradient she was grappling with. But at what cost? He realized that Laura's ambitions weren't just a threat to their past, but also an invitation to rethink their future, to redefine their partnership. Then let us stop trying to protect each other through half-truths. His words were steady now, the surge of indignation replaced by determination. Let us lay everything on the table and find that clarity together, because I want to elevate with you, not just for you. Their eyes met, and he noticed the tiny flicker of resolve blooming behind her defiance. It was a crack in the wall, an opportunity for true engagement instead of defensive posturing. But before Laura could respond, the phone buzzed again in her pocket, the urgency ignited anew, pulling at the thread of their burgeoning connection. Let us talk about this more, she vowed, stepping away again. But as she turned to address the call, Jack was struck by a terrifying thought. Perhaps this time, it wouldn't just be about business strategies or hidden secrets, but about choices that could irreversibly alter their paths. What decision would Laura make next, and how would it challenge everything he thought he understood about their partnership? As the faint echoes of the phone call consumed the space between them, Jack grappled with a sudden rush of urgency. He felt unmoored, like a ship cast adrift on turbulent seas without a lighthouse. He knew he had to clutch tightly to that flicker of resolve he'd sensed in Laura just moments before, even as the tension crackled anew. Was this the point where they moved past negotiation and into a territory that would define their future? The sunlight, which had initially seemed an ally, now felt harsh as it illuminated the chaos around him. Jack's instincts kicked in. He needed to act, and quickly. If Laura was venturing into risky waters, vulnerability could derail their partnership permanently. His thoughts swirled. They would have to engage fully unbarred and naked in their intentions. Feeling the weight of responsibility push against him, Jack took a breath to steady himself. I believe in you, he finally declared specifically, but we must approach this as a team. The words rolled off his tongue with an unfamiliar assertiveness, yet he felt a tremor of doubt in the back of his mind. Had he truly been oblivious to the transitions occurring in their partnership? Is that really how you feel? Laura asked, surprise mingling with unease in her expression. Can we start from scratch? He proposed, the idea resonating within him as both a risk and a necessity. What do you envision for us? The partnership, the family? The edges of Laura's mouth tugged downward, revealing a hint of vulnerability that shocked him. For months, perhaps longer, their interactions had bounced between routine and turbulence. Honesty had been a casualty of their ambition. Sometimes I feel like we're holding on to a vision that doesn't exist anymore, Jack. What if I have to make decisions that will upset the balance? She admitted, hesitancy lacing her words as if she were offering him a glimpse into her very soul. His mind raced. The distance that had emerged between them became glaringly obvious. Had he been too focused on striving to maintain what was familiar, rather than exploring what it truly meant to evolve together? Then let us have that conversation. Jack wanted to be the pillar of support while pushing for clarity. What is at stake? What are we willing to change? I need you to be honest with me, maybe even vulnerable. Seeing her visibly process the words, he sensed her internal struggle. This was a moment of choice not just for her, but for them both. The prospect of facing her truth and his own lingered close, both thrilling and terrifying. But there it was, a dialogue of possibility forming in the cracks of their past misunderstandings. Instead of retreating into defensive stalemates, they could drive forward with purpose. What do you really want from this? He pressed, feeling the weight of the question echo between them. I want our legacy to be more than just a business, she confessed, her expression transforming from apprehension to determination. I want it to reflect who we are together. But I fear what that means for everything we built. Jack let the words wash over him, understanding that authenticity was not an idle concept. It required meticulous work and unwavering commitment. It ignited a spark of hope, even amidst the turbulence of her admission. For the first time, he comprehended that they were standing at a precipice, not just of their careers but their relationship. Suddenly, he leaned closer, his heart racing. Then we redefine it together. It's a shared responsibility. Trust is the currency in this journey, but it has to be mutual. Their eyes locked, a shared understanding blossoming amid the uncertainty. Yet, just as Jack felt the tension melting into a purpose-driven connection, Laura's phone buzzed insistently again. His stomach tightened. Would this call prop open the door to new insights or better bury their connection? He braced himself. "Jack, I have to take this," Laura whispered, her eyes flickering with something between regret and determination. In moments like this, he exclaimed with a glance toward the phone, "You must ask yourself what truly matters, your career or our union." The gravity of his words hung between them as she readied herself to answer the call, her hand poised over the screen. What would she choose, and would it serve to elevate their bond or drive another wedge deep into their evolving lives? Jack felt his heart hammering in his chest, the seconds stretching like an elastic band ready to snap. The weight of Laura's impending decision hung heavy in the air, a tangible force propelling him through a whirlwind of emotions. He recognized that this moment was fraught with significance, perhaps even more so than the decisions they had made in the past. "Don't you dare walk back into the shadows," he thought fiercely, knowing that complacency was no longer an option. The ongoing drift in their partnership needed addressing, but how could he convince Laura that honesty was worth the risk? A single decision could turn the tide, disrupting the ambivalence that had festered between them. The way she held the phone, poised yet hesitant, conveyed loud and clear that she faced more than mere work matters. This was about her identity and priorities, a crossroads where personal values intersected with professional goals. "Laura," he interjected softly, keeping his tone steady amidst the storm within him, "what you choose in this moment will either fortify our connection or widen the rift. If this call is important, then let us make it important for us too. Communicate your needs to me." She faltered, the phone momentarily suspended in her grasp as she met Jack's gaze. In that fleeting instant, he saw flickers of uncertainty, a struggle not just against external expectations, but against her very self, the fear of jeopardizing their carefully constructed world. "I know it's hard to let down the facade," he encouraged, sensing her wrestling with the realities of commitment. "But I promise to stand by you if you're ready to step out from behind it." At the invitation, Laura's facade cracked slightly, revealing glimpses of a woman seeking clarity above all. "What if I'm not ready for this conversation?" she murmured, the phone buzzing like a relentless tide against the shore of her resolve. "Then we create a space for that uncertainty," Jack replied, mental gears spinning as he engineered a plan to bridge this chasm. "We allow ourselves to explore every facet of this new path, together. What do you fear might happen?" He watched as emotional walls began to falter. This was a cathartic moment, an opportunity for discovery. Through the raw honesty of his questions, Jack hoped not only to uncover Laura's truth, but to confront the insecurities that had lurked quietly in his own heart. "I worry about the reactions, Jack, the pushback from our peers, my family," she said, her voice lower now, almost vulnerable. "I want to forge something authentic, yet I'm scared of losing everything we've built." Jack felt a twinge of frustration mingled with empathy. "So you cling to the familiar even if it's misleading?" It dawned on him the potential greatness of their partnership was stifled by fears rooted in their past. "Because that's easier," Laura admitted, her eyes shimmering. "But it's so suffocating. I want to truly own who I am, both for myself and for us." That's a powerful realization, he acknowledged, propelled by her candor. Jack recognized the raw potential for transformation within her admission, so he pressed forward. "Now we explore the possibilities. What if we dismantle the status quo together?" As she considered his proposition, he sensed something shifting in the atmosphere. Could this be the pivotal point where his fears about vulnerability were finally replaced with a clearer vision of cooperation and openness? Suddenly, her phone buzzed again, snapping them both from their introspection. Time felt suspended in that suspended moment, but the insistence of the call pressed on. As Laura hesitated once more, Jack felt the urgency electrify through him. "Imagine what could lie on the other side of that call," he urged, anchoring her gaze firmly. "What if that's the catalyst for everything we truly desire?" The intensity of the moment lingered, igniting a fire within him. Jack realized that they stood on the edge of a transformative change, not just in their careers, but in their lives together. Yet, a part of him braced for what might follow, aware that revelations often come with unpredictable consequences. What awaited them on the other side of this threshold? Would Laura's choice amplify their bond? Or would it introduce an uncomfortable truth that demanded further wrestling? The answer hovered just out of reach, vibrating with uncertainty and anticipation. Would she cross that bridge, or choose to stay within the familiar confines of doubt? Laura's eyes flickered once more to her phone as it buzzed insistently, a reminder of her other life tugging at her focus. With her heart racing, she felt the weight of Jack's gaze, a mixture of hope and uncertainty radiating toward her. The moment before the call loomed larger than any business conversation. This was a defining moment that could reshape their future. Do I choose safety or authenticity? She thought, the question reverberating in her mind like an echo in a vast empty hall. A part of her longed to retreat to the comfort of what was known, the discussions over benign meetings, the late-night brainstorming sessions devoid of personal stakes. Yet, another part of her yearned for a rupture, a crack in the surface that might allow the light of her true self to seep through. Laura, it's just a call, she muttered to herself, but the stakes felt monumental. She could have the same conversation she always did, or she could choose to show her true self. What would happen if you dared to speak? Jack's voice interrupted her internal struggle. He leaned closer, his expression earnest. What's the worst that could come from being open? I don't know, she admitted, glancing back at the phone. I mean, what if it cost me everything? My family, my job, even you? The fear emerged as a tangible entity, wrapping around her like a vine choking a sapling. Or it could free you, he countered, his voice steady. It could lead to a version of you that connects with both your work and your values without compromise. As her resolve crumbled, Laura knew that Jack was right. The voice on the other end of the line could either enforce the chains she had been dragging or offer her the key to break free. Jack's support bolstered her courage. If she could trust him to stand beside her, maybe she could trust herself to step into the unknown. Slowly, she lifted the phone and pressed the answer button. Hello? Her voice came out shaky, revealing the vulnerability she had hidden so well. Laura, we need to discuss the project proposal. The voice on the other end spoke with a sense of urgency. The moment she had been dreading had arrived. Of course, she replied, forcing professionalism into her tone. Yet underneath, a storm raged. Every word felt like mental gymnastics, a battle between her authentic self and the reliable facade she had long maintained. But there was solace in Jack's presence. She could feel his energy flowing through her. The strength of his belief in her began to ground her spiraling thoughts. What if I was honest? She questioned herself. What if I said exactly what I felt? For the next few minutes, Laura navigated through the technicalities of the proposal with precision, even as an undercurrent of anxiety pulled at her. She could feel the tension coiling in her chest like a tight spring, but Jack had ignited something within her that craved release. As the call came to a close, she made a decision that surprised even herself. I'd also like to bring up the issue of our strategies regarding the new initiative, she said, her voice solidifying with determination. It's going to take a shift in how we approach our goals for this to work effectively. I refuse to keep pretending we can continue as we are. Silence stretched for what felt like an eternity before the voice on the other end responded. I don't think it's the right time to challenge traditional strategies, but Laura could feel the wave cresting within her. Respectfully, I disagree. If we aim for authenticity, we have to embrace innovative approaches, even if it makes us uncomfortable. A thrill of triumph surged through her, as Jack's eyes sparkled with pride. That's it, he mouthed silently, giving her a small, encouraging nod. The call ended, and the silence that followed felt heavy, yet liberating. Laura turned to Jack, breathless. I actually did it, she whispered, the disbelief coloring her words. And how does it feel? He asked, genuine curiosity illuminating his expression. Like the first breath of fresh air after suffocating for too long, she sighed, relief flooding through her. But beneath the thrill, an unsettling question took root. Had she just sparked a change that could unravel everything? Would this newfound courage unleash conflict beyond her imagination? What should have been a moment of victory wove tightly with the thread of anxiety, as they both stood on the precipice of something monumental. Would this be a gateway to true transformation for Laura, or would it bring consequences they weren't prepared to handle? Would standing tall ripple through their lives in unpredictable ways, shaking their foundation even further? Jack Thompson leaned back in his chair, a sense of revelation coursing through him. The conversation unfolded in waves, and whereas his world once felt precarious, he now sensed a foundation solidifying beneath his feet. Laura had stepped into her power, painfully and beautifully, and Jack realized that this crucial moment, this courageous unmasking, was about more than just business strategies. It carried profound echoes of authenticity and vulnerability. Before, They had stood divided, two forces locked in a battle between tradition and ambition. But in Laura's unguarded moment, he witnessed a shift. The tides had turned. No longer was Laura merely a competitor, she had become an ally. Jack could almost taste the path ahead of them, a journey intricate with collaboration. It would require them both to confront uncomfortable truths, yet it felt ripe with potential. Laura, Jack began, nodding at the chair that had once felt alien between them. This shift it opens doors, but we have to walk through together. Your call was powerful, and so is your vision. He studied her, noting the sheen of determination in her eyes. Here was the woman he had once envisioned, a family with the woman who could unify her ambition with the legacy he cherished. Jack felt the waves of accomplishment wash over him. It was clear now. Their futures were intertwined, a tapestry they could weave together instead of tearing apart. We stand at the brink of reinvention, he continued, the excitement bubbling up as he imagined the possibilities. Together, we can redefine what our legacy means, not just to ourselves but to Emma and the generations that will follow. There it was, the spark of transformation igniting between them. Fear diminished, making way for undeniable courage. Standing alongside Laura felt not like a compromise of his values, but rather a celebration of shared aspirations. As thoughts flowed fluidly, Jack's confidence solidified. He had challenged himself to grow both as a businessman and as a partner. Gone were the shadows of doubt and betrayal, replaced by a solid, quiet strength he had always known was within him. In order to move forward, he articulated, we need to write a new business plan, one that captures both your ambitions and the values my mother poured into this ranch. It cannot be one or the other, it must signify both. Jack felt elation glimmer in his chest as he gazed at her. Imagine a future where our family's legacy and your vision coexist harmoniously. The realization grounded him further. This wasn't merely a professional move. It was personal, a commitment to evolving as people. Trust, he thought fiercely, was a living entity requiring nurturing and authenticity. As they dove into the complexities of their ambitions, he felt a burgeoning sense of security. So, Laura said with a hint of resolve, how do we begin? With a steady breath, Jack reached for a notepad, drawing circles around their main objectives, igniting ideas that began to intertwine their futures. They would prioritize transparency, another layer of fortitude in a now secure partnership. At that moment, Jack acknowledged not just the professional strides they were taking or the legacy they would build, but a deep-rooted transformation within himself. The values instilled by his mother, the essence of family he had clung to, could harmonize with the fierce drive Laura embodied. With this clarity, he realized how far he had come. From a place of betrayal, he had emerged with a vision sharper than ever. He had not just saved a legacy. He had discovered a new part of himself, a man willing to engage with vulnerability in pursuit of collaborative growth. As they sketched ideas into existence, a harmonious energy strummed quietly between them, a testament to rejuvenated ambitions. Laura's eyes gleamed with a fresh light, a reflection of both her dreams and Jack's willingness to step beyond the familiar boundaries. They had embarked on an uncharted journey, but the true power lay not in the unknown, it resided in their connection. Jack felt the weight of contentment, lacing his heart, a profound sense of achievement grounded in shared vision and purpose. Let us commit together, he said, looking deeply into Laura's eyes, unearthing the shared commitment to forging their legacy. No longer were they two individuals on opposing paths. They were partners, navigating the complexities of love and ambition with grace. In this moment, Jack realized how far he had traveled in evolution, from conflict to a sturdy collaboration that would shape their lives and daughter's future. He had soared beyond his previous self, impactful, confident, and at peace within this unexpected partnership. This was not an ending. It was a beginning, a declaration that Jack would continue growing, proving that true strength lies not just in what one possesses, but in how one embraces the bonds they forge with others. As Jack finalized their plans with Laura, he felt an urgent wave ripple through him, a call increasing in intensity. They had to share their new path, energizing others to explore mutually beneficial partnerships rooted in honesty. And in that spirit, he urged again, you need to subscribe now to witness transformative stories like ours. This was the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below your thoughts. Can individual growth redefine partnerships? Share this journey with at least 5 friends who need to witness the power of connection. Don't Don't wait even one more second to share.